Hey guys, Michael the DC Multiverse Collector here. Welcome to the first installment of DC Multiverses, a new video format where I take a look at toys or collectibles from other toy lines and compare them favourably or unfavourably to comparable releases in the DC Multiverse line. The purpose of this type of video is for me to give a review of figures outside DC Multiverse without actually diluting the focus of the channel. That way, I can take a look at these other toy lines by putting them within the broader context of how they relate and compare to DC Multiverse. Now, my hope is that this sort of review will give some context to some of the common complaints and discussion points regarding DC Multiverse, and I also hope that it might be helpful for those of you out there who maybe aren't interested in, don't look at or keep up with other toy lines, and kind of help you get a sense of where DC Multiverse is sitting alongside other toy lines. What could Multiverse learn from other toy lines? Where is the Multiverse line excelling compared to other toy lines? That's the idea. I hope it's helpful and I hope it's interesting and entertaining. Let me know in the comments. If you like this new video format, give me a like, and if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. So for episode 1 today, we'll be looking at the Marvel Legends Deluxe Blob figure. So relax, settle in, and let's take a look. So for today's episode of DC Multiverses, we'll be taking a look at the Marvel Legends Deluxe Blob figure. Now, I love the X-Men, and the X-Men is sort of why I started collecting Marvel Legends. X-Men and Spider-Man, basically, they are the Marvel world to me, especially the X-Men. I have a real soft spot for them, and Blob here is a key member of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants in its earliest incarnations. I think he's a really fun character, big, bold, so when Marvel Legends released this deluxe 60 years anniversary of X-Men Blob figure, I had to get it. It came out earlier this year. It's taken me a while to get it. I finally grabbed it thanks to Fett's Hideout Toys and Collectibles, and yeah, it's here, it's arrived, so let's take a look. So first up, it comes in this whopping great big box, you know, which sort of speaks to how big the figure's going to be, but then you see the figure and it's not that big. Like if you compare the art on the box to the actual figure or the render, it kind of gives the impression he's much bigger than he really is, but that's neither here nor there. Put the box aside and let's just look at the figure, because I think there is stuff to look at and talk about. So this figure, first up, was 110 Australian dollars recommended retail price. Now I didn't actually pay that, but that is the RRP, 110 Australian dollars. And from what I know, it's about 55 American dollars was the retail price, recommended retail price. Correct me in the comments if that's not the case, but that's from my research. This is a 55 US dollar figure, okay? The thing that struck me about this figure, beyond its quality, which I'll talk about in a minute, is just how expensive it is for so little plastic. You know, and that's what really sparked the impetus for this video, because I just cannot believe that Hasbro thinks that they can charge 55 US dollars for this, no matter how good it is. Because ultimately, it is good, but it's still just an action figure. And it's not even that big of a one, or that impressive of a one. But let's get into it. So 55 US dollars, 110 Australian dollars is what this goes for. What do you get? You get the Blob figure, which is here, we'll get into it in a bit, and you get alternate hands. You get one fist hand, another fist hand, and another head sculpt. And it's a great head sculpt, beautifully sculpted, beautifully painted, just immaculate. Which is something I'll be coming back to when referring to this figure, is how immaculate it is. But, you know, that's what it comes with in terms of accessories. So for $110 in the box, you get an alternate head, a set of fist hands, and the figure. That's it. So taking a look at the figure itself in isolation, it's pretty great. I mean, like I said, that head sculpt is just fantastic. Beautifully sculpted, beautifully painted. He's got that screaming mouth. The teeth in there are all beautifully sculpted, and they are, you know, individual pieces that have been sculpted and glued inside that mouth to give it a real sense of depth. You can kind of just see how good that is. And I think that's one area where Marvel Legends is consistently outclassing DC Multiverse, is in the head sculpts. I think they're far more consistently good. DC Multiverse head sculpts range from terrific for some of the movie figures to just downright bizarre, like the Flashpoint Aquaman figure, and I think there's just less consistency in the quality of head sculpts. And I think a large part of that is the sort of technology that Hasbro is using to sculpt and paint their heads. I think it's a cut above, and it's their big strength, in my opinion, whereas there are lots of other weaknesses. That is their strength. So the rest of the figure, the first thing you notice about it is, this sort of very, very clean paint all over. This is it's a very clean figure. Like, there's not a huge amount of paint, but where there is, it's just immaculate. And there's other beautiful touches, like the freckles on this guy's skin. He's head to toe covered in freckles, which is just a beautiful detail. The sculpt is not overboard. It's sort of classic. It has these sort of wrinkles in the suit that gives you a sense of his mass. It's not overblown, but it's very tasteful. And I think this figure overall is just an exercise in not perfection, but in care. Like, it's just very carefully made and well considered. It's got a beautiful texture on this bodysuit, so it has a classic comic book look, but when you get up close, it doesn't look like flat plastic. There's like a texture to it. Same with the fabric belt. It's just, same with the boots. It's very nice, and its quality can't be denied. Articulation wise, it's pretty good. Like, the joints all work really well. You don't get much more than 90 degrees. You don't really need it. The head sort of rolls around. There's not much going on at the diaphragm. You can barely go back and forth. You can rotate a bit left and right. His legs swivel. They've got the Marvel Legends thigh swivel. Knees don't go sort of more than that. It does everything it basically needs to do for a big boy like this. So you can't really complain. It's nothing remarkable, but it's really well executed from top to bottom. But 110 Australian dollars. Let's have a look at a figure that came out for DC Multiverse Page Punches this year for $25 US. That's less than half. That's about 50 Australian dollars. Again, less than half. This is the Page Punches fighting the frozen Mr. Freeze. Now, like I said, less than half the price. 25 USD, 55 USD, 50 Australian dollars, 110 Australian dollars. Now, these two figures, in terms of size, are almost the same. The Blob is bigger and thicker, but can I tell you, in terms of weight, they're exactly the same. In the hand, non-scientifically, they feel exactly the same in terms of mass. This is the same amount of plastic. Then you compare the paint apps, and I think it's a wash. I mean, this has got less paint, but it's very clean and clear. This has got... no, you know what? I probably have to give it to Mr. Freeze. Has got more paint, better paint. Obviously, the head sculpt here is immaculate, but you're in the same ballpark. There is nothing about this figure that says to me it's double the price of that in terms of the paint, for example. In terms of accessories, this guy came with a gun, freeze ray, and his freeze backpack, with this soft plastic cord, which is quite nice. He also came with an exclusive comic book, right? Which is not nothing. It's query how much of a draw that is. It's not nothing, and a display stand, all right? So in terms of accessories, Blob comes with probably better accessories, but it's, again, a wash, in my opinion, and I don't see how you get double the price. I just don't. I don't know what Hasbro's doing. I don't know what they're smoking, okay? Then you look at the sculpt, and this is stylistically a very different thing. This is like a classic, like Golden Age X-Men Brotherhood, like spandex look, whereas this is a very stylized, detailed comic book look from a distinct art style, that fighting the frozen depiction of Mr. Freeze. But, pound for pound, there's more technical, detailed sculpting going on here. So no matter how I look at this, even articulation, it's basically comparable. If anything, this guy's better articulated. So I'm not going to go through that to show you now. You're going to have to take my word for it. But what I'm getting at is that, for bang for your buck and play factor, McFarlane Toys is absolutely killing Hasbro for things like this, like a deluxe figure. This is a deluxe figure. deluxe. And this is a standard Page Punchers release. That's the level that McFarlane Toys is operating versus Hasbro. They give you this great product, and it is great, but they charge you 110 Australian dollars, 55 US dollars. You are paying through the nose for something good. McFarlane Toys gives you something good for half the price or less. Worth considering. Let's bring in another one. So here's a mega figure that McFarlane Toys released this year. This is the Crisis on Infinite Earths Anti-Monitor mega figure. Now, we're starting to get into comparable price points here because a mega figure in the United States is 40 US dollars. In Australia, that's about 70 to 80 Australian dollars versus 55 US dollars or 110. So it's getting closer, but still significantly cheaper than this. In Australian currency, US currency, this is cheaper than this. Now here, I think the difference is maybe not as stark. I mean, Anti-Monitor is taller, but he's much, I think, lighter than Blob. I think he's got less paint than Blob. And I think in terms of the overall aesthetic and articulation, he's probably not as refined as Blob. Certainly not executed to as high a degree as this figure here. But it's less money, you know, it's 20 US dollars, or sorry, you know, well, no, 16, 15 US dollars less, okay? And about 30 Australian dollars less. This is nothing, it's nothing to sneeze at, right? McFarlane Toys is putting out big, chunky hunks of plastic, you know, for less money. And the difference in quality here is negligible. This is the better figure, but is it that much better? You know, query that. And then things get even weirder when I bring in an even bigger mega figure. So here is the mega figure Calabac, okay, from McFarlane Toys. Now, again, 40 US dollars, 55 US dollars, about 80 Australian dollars versus 110 Australian dollars. Now, size-wise, Calabac is fairly big for a mega figure, much bigger than the Blob. And he definitely weighs more too. So you're getting more plastic here, more shelf presence. And I think in terms of the sculpt and paint, Calabac is hard to beat. This guy is sculpted from head to toe. This is one of McFarlane's better head sculpts. It's great. Articulation on this is not good. It's probably a little bit worse than the Blob, but not that much worse. So if I look at these two together, 40 US, 55 US. 80, 110 Aussie dollars. Like, something's not adding up. Hasbro is having a laugh. They really are. They are just exploiting their customers. Great product, extortionate pricing. So I would say for DC Multiverse fans who are feeling like things are getting expensive lately with the collector edition line, and you know it's in price increase, and you know there's surely going to be price increases to come. You still have it pretty good. I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm not saying you don't have the right to complain about pricing, but put it in context of what the competition is doing. And it seems a little bit easier to bear, right? Like, I look at these two together, and it's crazy to me that is more expensive than that. This is not some, like, MathX quality thing. It's a Hasbro product. It's probably Hasbro at the top of their game for Marvel Legends. Like, it doesn't get that much better for Marvel Legends, but it's still just Marvel Legends. Right? It's nothing super premium. This is the same ballpark. This is the same competitive landscape for figures, in my opinion. Big, chunky action figures. And McFarlane is just killing them. Just killing them. But look, let's get even bigger and see how more ridiculous this can get. Let's bring in another mega figure from this year. The DC Multiverse Justice Buster mega figure. Now this figure is so big, and you can check out my full review on my channel. This figure is so big that I can't even fit it in the frame. I'm going to have to move him back to fit him within the frame. I'll move the Blob back too. You can see Justice Buster absolutely towers over the Blob. Absolutely towers over him. There's almost like double the amount of shelf presence, okay? Now in terms of weight, Blob is actually probably heavier, okay? So there's quite a bit of hollowness going on here. And I think overall, like, the plastic quality maybe isn't quite as premium feeling as this. This feels like a bit more expensive to the touch. But, you know, look at the size of this thing and look at the detail. This thing is sculpted to the nines, right? Beautiful sculpting. It's got minimal paint, but where it does well. You know, it's got the paint on the digits, on the fingers, the toes, that beautiful bat symbol there. Turn it around. All that beautiful sculpting continues around the back. The articulation on this is surprisingly fun and good. I won't demo it for you now. Watch my review. Like, this is a big, action-packed, fun figure. No accessories to speak of, just a display stand. And this guy did come with his hands and alternate head, but like $40 US, $55 US. You know, $80, cheaper on special, but you know, that goes for both. $80, $110. You know, you're just getting so much more fun factor, shelf presence, display value, in my opinion, for your money with McFarlane. Like, it is embarrassing for Hasbro. And while I still love certain releases in the Marvel Legends line, like this, you know, from my X-Men completionism, this is a must. I feel like I kind of would have got fleeced if I'd paid $110. Now, let me show you the final comparison, which is not really a fair comparison, but it's really instructive. So, way back when, in the first year of the DC Multiverse line, McFarlane released this Devastator figure. Now, Devastator is, for those of you who don't know, it's Batman and Doomsday essentially, merged together. This figure was released for $20 US when it first came out. Now, this is a couple of years ago now, and the prices they're not really meaningful anymore because a lot has happened since this came out. Inflation, lots of other factors, the pandemic, whatever. This McFarlane is not releasing figures of this quality and size at $20 anymore. He was, but he's not anymore. But look at the sculpt. This thing weighs an absolute ton. It is huge. It's sculpted to the nines, decently articulated. $20 US, 30 to 35 Australian dollars. Insane. 35 Australian dollars, 110 Australian dollars. That's a third of the price. This today is a third of the price that was a couple of years ago. Now, as I said, it's not a super fair comparison because McFarlane is not releasing figures like this anymore, but it kind of shows how things have changed in the last few years and how us collectors are really getting squeezed. We're getting much less plastic, less innovation for much more money. And that's just, it's just a sign of the times. I don't have the solution to it. What I will say though is, you know, putting this slightly unfair comparison aside, what we are dealing with, I think, with DC Multiverse is a line that, you know, we are seeing some price increases. We're seeing some corners being cut, some reuse. But overall, you know, you look at the sort of figures that it's releasing in the year 2023 versus what the competition is doing, and you look at the price point and you look at the overall quality, we are doing well. DC Multiverse is doing well. Not to say it can't improve. We can always ask for more and to do better, but there's lots to be grateful for. And I think that we should hold McFarlane Toys up to this standard. They should maintain this standard. More of this. Less reuse or egregious reuse or inappropriate reuse. More beautiful detailed sculpts. Okay, with decent amounts of paint, good articulation, fun designs, decent price point. Let's try. Anyway, I think today, conclusively, we've established that in this DC Multiverse is on top. So for big, chunky figures like Blob, which is great, a great figure. If you're into Marvel Legends, you should get it, and especially if you love the X-Men, DC Multiverse comes out on top in this arena. No doubt about it. So, look, I hope you found this interesting, insightful, entertaining, helpful. I don't know. Maybe you just want to sort of scream at me because I've insulted your favorite toy, or you think I'm shilling now for Hasbro, or I don't know, you feel like I'm losing the focus of my channel. Do let me know. But either way, if you wouldn't mind interacting with me somehow, leave me a comment, a like, subscribe if you haven't. That's what I live for. That's why I do this. That's why I take the time out to make these sort of videos. Let me know if you want to see more of this, or if this is sort of irrelevant to your interests. I'm really curious to know. But until next time, happy collecting, and thank you so much for watching.